You bought the tools, you paid the subscriptions, you even sent the email telling everyone to start using AI.
And 6 months later, most of your team is still doing everything exactly the same way they did.
And here's the truth, AI adoption doesn't fail because of the tech.
It fails because of the people. And today we're going to tell you exactly how to fix that.
Welcome back to the AI and Marketing Podcast for Local Businesses, the show that gives you practical, proven marketing advice to help you grow your business right here in the UK. My name's Adam, I'm a best-selling Amazon published author, AI enthusiast, and AI presenter, and founder of www.websitedesigners.london. We've helped businesses generate tens of millions of pounds online through smarter design and marketing.
And I'm Josh, I'm the founder of improvebysearchranking.com, an SEO-backed AI search agency based in London and 3-time winner of the UK Search Awards. Over the past 10 years, we've worked with over 1,000 businesses, helping them generate over £200 million in sales.
Fantastic. So today we're going to give you 6 tips, reasons why your team isn't using AI and how to fix it. So number 1, AI adoption fails in most businesses because people assume it's automatic when they introduce or buy a tool. It isn't, right? You've got to really understand you're working with people, not just systems or processes. Ultimately, some people, not all, some people will have can respond with fear. Will this replace me? Will this new process replace me? Will this tool replace me? Will I be made redundant? Some people might be confused about how to use it. And some people will maybe not have that fear or confusion, but they might try it once and, forget about it. You really got to ingrain that habit. And ultimately, you've got to step back and think, look, my staff aren't going to resist because they're lazy. Some might, right? But they'll resist likely because no one's really made it easy or specific to the role. And there's no kind of clear, formalized or informal training session. So they don't know how to use it, uh, in their job today. So it won't stick. So if we kind of address each of those, you've got the fear element to enable people to really think about that. You need to address it head on. This is to help you do your job. Will AI replace jobs? Yes, it will, but that's not what you should be leading with, right? It should be, use this well, and it will show that you're a great employee, and therefore we'd want you to keep you on. Those who don't use it are likely going to be less productive, less efficient. So I think that messaging is tough, but true. The confusion of you don't know where to start, that's where you've got to have the training. And the habit, have a dashboard. What's that phrase we talked about yesterday?
What gets managed gets measured.
That's it. Or what gets measured gets managed. Yeah. So regularly report on it, so people know how frequently they're using it. Make a top 10 users. Send emails to people who aren't using it. Looking at the dashboard, say, look, why aren't you using it? Do you need more training? Do you know how to use it? Are you struggling? Let's have that conversation.
A few points on that. So I think this could be related to change management. I think that's a kind of business theory, isn't it? Where you need to try to change what people are doing currently. They're very ingrained in their old habits of logging into their email, doing their tasks one-on-one, and that may need to change. So at our organization, we have this brand new system where, and we've built this AI system where everything is in one place. All the tasks the team needs to do, all the work needs to be done on a monthly basis. We're going through the change management process at the moment, and some people will find it super easy. They're logging into the system, they're using it every day. Some people are just ingrained in their old habits, so they're not using the new system. So for those people who aren't, we're having to do extra training sessions, extra kind of support, visiting their desk or having Zoom calls with them and making sure they know how to use everything.
That's it. No, spot on. It's education, it's reassurance, it's a bit of hand holding, spoon feeding, and it's reassurance as well, right? Some people, again, might look at that software and see, oh, great, we can use it, or not great, but they can use AI to generate the content. Does that mean they won't need a copywriter? I'm a copywriter. Well, no, let's either retrain you, let's use your time more wisely into more strategic things as opposed to something that can now be automated. Um, so this is people management, this is change management, um, and just I guess think about the last time you got a new software that was implemented in your organization. Did everyone just pick up on it on day one? No, and AI is not going to be any different there.
One final thing about the fear factor. There was a stat going around, the reported statistic that 31% of millennials are sabotaging AI in their business because they don't have a fear of being replaced, which is quite shocking and not very professional, of
Mm,
course, but it does show there is a real fear of people thinking their jobs are going to be taken. I like to think of it in a more positive way that AI is going to help everybody be more productive, be more efficient, provide a better service, and just be good for everybody.
I totally agree with you. I'm on the same boat, but we're not representative of everyone, unfortunately, or fortunately. Yeah. So step two.
Start with 1 week and not a full rollout. So the key points here are when you're changing, don't change everything at once. Do one thing at a time. So if you have several processes in your organization that you have done for years and years and years in a particular way, pick one of those. That's the most common one, and create a new standard operating procedure to do that task, but using AI instead of just doing it completely manually. So you could get a low stake task or something you do quite often. So, for example, if you're a receptionist, that might be using an AI tool or assistant to draft up email replies if it's in sales. It might be an AI generated follow up sequence rather than manually having to go back to all of your prospects. In marketing, it might be an AI first draft for social media posts or newsletters or blog posts. And if you're in operations, it may be some sort of AI meeting summary tool like Otter.ai or Firefox.
Absolutely. And look, there is various bits of frameworks and research out there. There was actually, if we think about talking about managing change and managing strategic change, uh, there are a number of models. There is a change kaleidoscope developed by Haley and Logan. If you want to do a little Google search on that, there's the Popits model, POPIT model, as another framework for effective change organization. And there's also kind of a framework that outlines how there are four main types of change to consider. You've got transformational change, realignment change, big bang change, and incremental change. They're the four different kind of um, severities and extents of change. So this is essentially think about how big and drastic you want the change to be. Do you want that transformational change, which involves changing the entire culture of the organization, which is significant and comprehensive in nature? Um, or is this something more of a what they call a realignment change, whereby uh, the assumptions and beliefs of the organization do remain the same? It's less drastic, but there are some other kind of processes that are changed whilst keeping the culture intact. Now, if we think about uh, so that's the kind of severity. If we think about the scope of change, you've got Big Bang, which refers to drastic and immediate change. So if you want something changed day one, and that's typically a bit more difficult and challenging to do. Then you've got incremental change where you make small and gradual changes. So I guess just explaining this because you've got different ways of making change, and it does depend on your organization and individual differences. However, what we're trying to say here is, you know, if your organization is really falling behind, then you might need to make that big bang change. However, and that realignment change. However, um, or transformational change even. However, if you are just trying to implement AI into the organization in a more steady and paced manner, then that incremental change, making those small and gradual changes that Josh mentioned, um, on maybe on a gradual basis is going to be more beneficial.
Yeah, I think that incremental way of doing things is going to be the safest and most easy way of doing so for your business. And once somebody has successfully saved a lot of time on a particular task or done it to a higher level, they'll
Mm,
be easier to convert to the next stage in the process of moving along with integrating AI into your organization.
absolutely. And there are various studies out there. So, for example, McKinsey, they've done a bit of research that show employees that have experienced that productivity win that you just talked about, Josh, more significantly are likely to come back, kind of continue and expand the usage, because why wouldn't you want to continue using something that works?
Mm.
So section 3, addressing the fear directly. So we've already touched on this a little bit. Fear of job loss is real, and pretending it isn't will just make it worse, and it'll exacerbate the issue. We read headlines. If you just open the Financial Times, for example, um, the first few pages will talk about job losses, it- or any other kind of go-to business news source will talk about job losses. So having that on this conversation, um, and reframing that into a more positive manner will win. It's a win-win. Your employees will win because they will keep their job if they use AI, become more efficient, become more strategic in their nature. That'll increase the company's productivity, allow them to focus on other things, uh, and maybe even hire more people. If they don't, uh, and if they don't, then honestly, they will become less valuable as employees, unfortunately, um, uh, because AI is here to stay, and your competitors will be using AI, and it's one of those things that you just have to have to stomach, unfortunately. Um, Ultimately, if you just reframe AI as you know what, this will multiply your skill set, not replace you, and share examples of similar businesses where AI is created, whether they're department businesses that AI has created kind of capacity for staff to do more interesting work that they want to do and not less work. So if you don't address this head on, you're going to have people feeling insecure in their roles. You don't want that. Any study kind of, or any kind of, even just thinking about that, that will just demoralize your organization. People will start looking elsewhere because they'll be working in fear. So skip this conversation at your peril, and address it head on.
Yeah, I've experienced this actually firsthand where a member of staff has expressed some kind of fear regarding use of AI in the organization and is, how does that gonna impact their value or their impact in the business? And as you kind of rightly mentioned there, I think it is a skill multiplier. It's something that's going to enable that individual to be more productive and to be more valuable, to help us provide a better service to our customers, and it's not going to negatively impact them in any way at all.
Absolutely. Uh, I feel like past 3 or 4 talks I've given on AI, you've had audience members ask a question in the chat where I've given it virtually, for example, and at least at least one, whether it's in a chat or in person, one person will raise that concern, and it's a valid concern, right? Um, I've had it in person. People say, "Oh, AI is not great," and it's essentially downplaying AI. And I'm not saying AI is a silver bullet by any means. You still got to have that human in the loop. You've still got to check its output, but it will help you. And that's the kind of reassurance you'll need to give. Your expertise still matter. Use AI, upskill yourself, is the key message.
One podcast I listened to called Moonshots.
Mm.
There's a few kind of top AI individuals in this podcast, and they do predict that some jobs will be lost because of AI.
Yep.
But they also predict that more organizations will exist in the future because it's now so much easier to create an organization. So there might be lots of 5, 10, 15, 20 people organizations that are using AI and competing with much larger organizations. So if unfortunately you do lose your job in in the future because of AI somehow replacing what you're doing, it's a lot of experts believe there'll be just as many jobs, if not more, in the future for you to have.
Spot on.
Cool. Section 4 is build a simple AI culture without making it a big deal in your organization. So you don't need, a big AI committee or a 6-month change management program. You can instead just use these very practical steps in your local business, and you can even start using them this week. So first and foremost, the something we have is a kind of shared channel on our internal communication systems, and we call it AI Wins, and it's simply a, a, um, a channel thread in our internal forum. We just input any AI wins we had that week. So that might be, for example, generating some new code with HTML that might have generating some code in Claude HTML rather than manually writing it, saving 45 minutes to create this new element for a web page and help it rank in Google more effectively, or any other type of win that someone might have in the week. Um, in your weekly meetings, so again, every week we have 2 team meetings, and in one of those meetings we run through the new AI system that we have to help our organization, and we give some training and advice on how to use that. Another idea may be to nominate a AI champion in your business, so someone who's really into the AI, who has somebody in every organization who is, and get them to help. I've heard you are. And yeah, celebrate the wins as well. So in that AI wins channel and in your team meetings, mention how Bob or Sarah, whoever used that, yeah, has used ChatGPT or Gemini or built a new AI processing system to help within your business.
Yeah. And look, this is a way of easing AI into an organization. You can absolutely have an AI committee. I know we said you don't have to, but this is essentially saying you don't have to do these things and also implement AI. But having an AI committee absolutely is beneficial. Having champions is absolutely beneficial. Having a change program is absolutely beneficial. But what we're the message here is you can still use AI beneficially, improve efficiencies, improve your bottom line revenues, improve people's day-to-day working environment without having to do these things, just by doing these small, low, um, low cost, low time intensive tasks to implement AI. But absolutely having a more formal program, especially if you're a larger organization, might be the way to go. Um, Number 5, the tools worth starting with for a local business are the following. Before we get into them, in fact, what I'll kind of give you as a key point here is don't chuck 20 different AI out of the box tools at your employees. Start small, 1 or 2. Let everyone find their feet using those tools, and then once if those tools go down well, providing those tools go down really well or not, either way, if there's still a gap or a certain process, then maybe look elsewhere for another AI tool and implement that. But start small in terms of the number of tools that cover most of the ground. So I would particularly start with an LLM, large language models like ChatGPT, your Claude, your Copilot, um, your Google AI mode or Gemini. I'd start with one of those tools because they will cover most of the ground in terms of writing, summarizing, planning, and answering questions, generating imagery, etc. And then I would perhaps kind of uh, start using other tools as well. So automatic meeting notes and action points using Fireflies or Otter AI, creating visuals. Yeah, ChatGPT can do this, but if you want to kind of have a bit more control, Canva AI. If you want to automate repetitive administrative tasks between existing tools, so linking AI frameworks between tools, and this is a bit more complex in nature, I'd say. Zapier, Zapier, And then you've got Google Gemini, which allows you to, if you use Google already, Google Workspace already, then that's a great tool to integrate as well. And those are just a small handful of tools, right? There are so many out there. But if you haven't implemented AI into the workplace, I would start with your likes of Claude. I personally think Claude is leading at the moment, leading LLM, and then or ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, but Claude number one for me at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Perfect. So moving on to the next section this is about how to measure.
And the final section,
The final section, the sixth and final section, is how to measure if it's actually working in your organization. So we don't want to just ask your team members, are you using AI? You instead want to ask, are we getting the outcome that we wanted? So there's some simple metrics you can track here. For example, time saved on specific tasks. So if you already have a catalog of SOPs that I'd like to talk about on this,
SOPs,
some SOPs,
some standard operating procedures.
exactly.
Josh's favorite acronym.
What we know is if you had that already set up before AI, you might know the average time it takes to do task A, task B, task C. And then what you can do using your new AI work is measure the difference. Are people actually saving time on specific tasks? And secondly, is the volume then higher? So if they're saving time, is there more output from your new AI workflow? So you get more content, more email follow-ups, more sales proposals, etc., etc. And finally, another metric you could track is staff sentiment. So if people feel less stressed and find working days easier, how AI is helping them with those particular tasks. So what I would do personally is check those three things. So time saved on tasks, volume output, and the sentiment of the staff using AI. But then do a weekly or monthly check-in with the team members on an individual basis, see what tools are being used, what tools aren't being used, and why. So you can then ditch what's not working and continually optimize what is working.
And even if you don't want to ditch because you think it's a great tool that people just aren't using, whether it's training, whether it's just having that feedback and that two-way communication is key, I guess. So let's just recap here. So we've talked about 6 different steps to get your team using AI and how to fix them, or identify why your team is using AI and how to fix them. So step 1, why adopt sales in businesses? We've talked about that. Fear, confusion, no habits. Section 2, we've talked about starting with one win and not full rollout. So whether that's one high frequency, low stake task per role and automating that first. Section 3, we talked about addressing the fear directly. So fear of job losses is one of the main key things and themes that comes up. Section 4 is about building that AI culture in a simple and easy way. And number 5, section 5, are just using a tool that covers most of the ground. So your AI generative large language models like Claude. And then finally, measuring. Measure it actually works, having that two-way communication to find out exactly how much money, time, volume you've saved and how people in your organization feel about it. So if your AI adoption has stalled, or if you think, gosh, you know what, I could implement some of these tools, use this. Start with one win. Have that honest conversation about fear. Build that culture of curiosity, excitement. Have a AI champion who is genuinely very excited about AI to talk to your team and to present because it's infectious. I feel like I'm that guy. I am that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, businesses putting ahead right now are the ones that most use AI tools. They're the ones the whole team is actually using them.
Absolutely. If this episode gave you something useful, please do share it with another business owner, a friend, family member who's really trying to figure out this AI game as well. Follow the show as well so you never miss an episode. And if you want hands-on implementing AI in your marketing, then do get in touch with me at website designers.london or get in touch with Josh at improveMySearchRanking.com.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening.